Welcome to the Wally Report, MMA Savvy exclusive. Listen, we're back once again, and we're going to hit you with another hot MMA Savvy episode. Today, we'll be discussing UFC 313, Pereira versus Ankaleav, and all the craziness that transpired in Vegas on Saturday night. We're officially going to go through the card and analyze all the big moments and the official results. So get ready for some serious action, fight fans. All right, so with that, let's just go straight into the card and discuss the prelims first. Yes, UFC 313, Pereira versus Ankaleav. Let's just soak this in. I mean, I thought it was going to be a little bit of a better card top to bottom. We did have some cancellations, which we're going to get into. I thought the main event was going to live up to a little bit more. It's going to be more fireworks, more action. So I would say it's definitely... It wasn't the greatest of cards, but still there was some unbelievable stuff that happened and maybe a new champion, but we're going to get into that. So let's go all the way down, as I mentioned. Let's go down here. Let's just go through some of the key prelims. We're not going to touch everything. One thing I do want to bring up, as you can see this fight here, Carlos Leal. Man, he put it on Morono. Morono's been around. He's no slouch. He's a great striker. And Carlos just like dropped bombs on him. I mean, he made it look easy. Once he had him hurt, he went for it. He finished him. Morono looked just like completely out of sorts once he got touched. Leal. So in the smaller stories, Morono, he needs to probably think about, maybe retiring, where Leal now is a new force at welterweight. So just a guy to keep. There's a lot of new Brazilians, man, that are coming up. Every time you think some of the champions get dethroned and you think that the Brazilians are, don't have as many belts, all of a sudden a whole new influx of crazy Brazilian fighters start coming up. Leal's someone to look out for. Now, this was the key prelim in my eyes. Bruno Ferreira versus Armen Petrosyan, and it lived up to the hype. Petrosyan was even favored. And if you remember on our other larger show, the Excuse the Savvy, I did mention that this would be a great if you were to touch, because you have Ferreira as an underdog. Are you kidding me? So honestly, I gotta say, I think Petrosyan won round one. He did more. He was staying active with the kicks. He looked really sharp. Ferreira didn't seem like he could deal with the length of Petrosyan and is having trouble closing the distance, but he stayed in there. He started throwing some great bombs in the second round. And then he got the takedown. He double legged, almost like Cormier said, he looked like a football player getting the tackle. And once he took him down, boom, the fight completely changed. He was able to do what he wanted. He got to the back, and then Petrosyan kind of was shaking him off, right? Because he had gone for a submission, and man, he went so slick into the triangles to the armbar. I haven't seen a transition that slick in a while. I feel like there's definitely a little bit less and less great subs in the UFC right now because people can defend them so well. They've been sort of dealing with these jiu-jitsu players for so long. But boom, man, and Petrosyan tapped quickly. I was like shocked. I was like, damn, I did not see that coming like that. Ferreira now. He's beaten Robocop. He's beaten other players right outside of the top 15. You got to give him he's got to get a top 15 fight next. Huge, now in the middleweight division. Look out for this guy. Speaking of scary Brazilians, boom, they're popping up all over the place. Definitely take a look at this guy. All right. Josh Van was the prelim main event after of course, there was a devastating Curtis Blades cancellation. We all know, like 2 hours before the card. I hate when we lose a guy that's in the top 5. I wanted to see him versus Kuniev. But anyway, that got canceled because Blades was sick. So Josh Van got promoted. I mean, you'd like to see a top 15 guy. I like Josh Van a lot. He was very impressive because Tesora is a great wrestler. He was in it. He was trying to put the pressure, but he's just not a balanced fighter, as you could hear Rogan and Cormier talk about. He was really just trying to wrestle the whole time. He had a couple slick throws that Cormier lost his mind over, but really was a story of Josh Van. They were saying that he hadn't even wrestled. And so his takedown defense was unbelievable. He was weathering the storm, and his striking was just much better on the feet. He's definitely going to move up now, at least in the future, to get a big name. Look out for this guy at the flyweight division. He's special. He's super fast. Could be a future, I don't know about a future champion, but he's going to be in that top 10 range very soon. But that was a very impressive win to show that you can go against an elite grappler like a Tesora is very impressive. So look out for him. So pretty decent prelims. Now, Here's the crazy thing, and I know other fans probably experienced the same fucking thing. When we tried to switch over, ESPN didn't let us buy the pay-per-view. So the night is a little bit marred by, I was so excited. We were talking about this all week. We were leading up to the fucking card, and then we couldn't buy it. And I thought it was just a glitch at first. I was like, what's wrong with my phone? So I tried my Apple TV. I start calling friends. I mean, luckily you always have like 20 minutes or so before King Green would fight Rufy. But boom, then I started hitting people up. And so I had to call customer service. I couldn't even get into the card. I ended up having to buy the damn fight on some random website. And so I missed Green Rufy and Limos Lucindo. I was fuming, baby. I was pissed. Anyway, luckily I was able to see some of the highlights. I was able to catch up. But like, Dana must be fuming. I saw him in the press conference at the end. He definitely was aware of this. They probably lost millions of dollars last night for people that weren't able to buy it in time. I don't know how widespread this was, but people were definitely calling. Okay, back to the fights. So, because I missed some of this, my analysis is not as great, but I did see the replay. I did see that Rufy hit Green a couple minutes in with an unbelievable spinning kick. We already knew it. I mean, he was so heavily favored. We were kind of joking, why is King Green still on the main card? No slight to him. We're big Bobby Green fans. We're King Green fans. But it's kind of like the Kevin Holland thing. You're putting him on because he's entertaining, but now he's kind of getting knocked out. I mean, Rufy looks like a killer. He looks like he's another problem at lightweight. So maybe it was more of a coming out party for him versus Green really being a great competitor in this fight. So I think that's the storyline now. Does Rufy get a top 15 fight at 155? I feel like even though 155 had been the most exciting division for a couple years, it's gotten a little bit stale now. And so I like this new blood action if he gets a top 15 fight next. So look out for, and maybe here's the theme of the night, another new Brazilian killer coming up the ranks. What is going on with these fighting nerds, baby? It's a real problem. The other thing was, Nico and I were going to talk about it in our logger show. We took a hit, man. Our picks did not, we hit Rufy. And I'm just going to really go over. I missed, again, Limos and Lucindo. I was locked out, so I missed most of the fight. But I see that Limos got the unanimous decision. I heard she mostly got the ground control. She did enough. Man, I really wanted to take her. I'm kind of pissed. My heart pick, I almost was going to go Limos, but I got swayed by Vegas. I got swayed by Lucindo on that run. Remember when we were doing the analysis, she looked like she was the hotter fighter. I guess it didn't come to fruition. And so Limos defends and retains her number 5 ranking. She reset herself. That was a big win. That was a big miss. So I go 1-1 for the night. And then the big fight. Finally, I got into the pay-per-view right at this time. Turner was on top of Bahamondes. And I was like, yes, because remember, I picked Turner. So did Nico. We thought Turner would reset himself. We thought he was going to do enough. He's number 13 in the world. Like, come on, bro. And all of a sudden, I barely even got just logged into the pay-per-view. I'm like, yes, I'm there. And Turner's on top. I look away for a second, and boom, Bahamondes sneaks in a sneaky triangle. Boom, fight over. Like a couple minutes into the first round. And so, huge win for him. He had already won, I believe, 5 out of 6. Now he's the number 13 in the world. More new blood at lightweight, so we gotta like this, right? Because we were saying the division was getting a little stale. I feel bad for Turner. I like him. I think he's a great fighter, and I believe he retired last night. So at least they got the performance of the night was to Bahamondes. He's something now. He's somebody that's Chilean. You're gonna have to watch out for him. Now he's going to get that number 13 in the world or something right around there. And his next fight's going to be massive now. I love these new guys coming in because I think 2024 was a weird year. A lot of injuries, cars that weren't as great as we thought they were going to be. And now I think 2025, we're going to have this just a lot of new blood and new people coming in these divisions to really wake things up. All right. The big fights. So thank God I was logged in by now. Get Gaethje, Fiziev 2. This was, of course, and it got fight of the night. We all thought that it probably would. The first fight was amazing. Remember, we saw Fiziev was up. I thought Justin was in big trouble, and Fiziev was even up late into the second round, and then Justin turned it around with some big punches, won the third round, and stole it. It was almost a similar tale, just a slightly different. And I took Gaethje. Nico took Fiziev. Because we lost the fucking Turner fight, so now we better hit this. I was down and out. I was 1-2 at this point. I needed Gaethje to hit, so it was a similar story, but I wouldn't say Fiziev was as dominant as he was in the first fight with round one. But I thought he did enough to squeak round one. It was a very competitive round, but Fiziev had better kicks. I think he had a couple more strikes than Gaethje. Gaethje still took a little bit to get like warmed up, and Fiziev looked like that dangerous striker. But the funny thing was, he didn't have the full camp, and even Rogan and Cormier were saying like, man, he doesn't look as like quick and sharp. But then they were saying, hey, maybe that's going to pay him dividends because he's not going to gas himself out by going too hard in the first round. And it almost did. It almost did. But so he didn't look as fast. Like he's usually looks like he's in the fucking Matrix physique. So, but I think he edges out round one. And then it's a very close round two again. And later in the round, late in round two, Gaethje hits him with an unbelievable uppercut, even more impactful than in that first fight. And that changes the whole fight. He steals round two. And then round three is very close. I mean, this was still, it was anybody's fight. But Gaethje did more. He hit him with a big kick near the end, better punches. Fiziev looked like he kind of tired himself a little bit. And then he just couldn't throw. Gaethje just gets better as the fight gets along. Like he gets more pissed. He likes to be in the pocket. He likes to brawl. Fiziev is maybe just more technical. And again, it's sort of the same story. You got to applaud Fiziev for coming in on fucking 2 weeks notice. But it's, I guess, the same story. And what this answered a couple questions. Fiziev is great, and he's still going to be around. But more on the Gaethje side. I kept saying that it was the broken nose, which is why he fought the way he did against Holloway. And now we see that's the truth. Gaethje's still Gaethje. Maybe he wasn't the superstar Gaethje we were used to, but that was a great performance, okay? And so, you know, now we got to see, okay, the other part of the story is what does he get next? Now he's still in that, now he still retains his number 3. And so now maybe he still has a shot at Islam. I still think he's a fight away, though. I don't think that gives him a title shot. I think you got to now see what fucking shakes out with the Topuria. Are they going to give Topuria Islam right away? Does that mean then Charles and Arman then have to wait? And if so, Gaethje's got to fight one of those guys. That's what you got to do, right? I like to see an Oliveira Gaethje 2 or a Sarukian Gaethje fight for the title eliminator. I like that, right? Number 1 contender slot. That's what I would like. But I think it showed that he reset himself. He's still the Gaethje that we know and love. And I still think he has one last shot at a title now with this win. All right, the big fight. The light heavyweight championship between Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankaleav. Listen, a lot of people didn't know what to expect. There were so many variables going into this fight. Ankaleav has the wrestling, but he also is a kickboxer. He's a decorated striker. He said to everybody, hey, we're going to stand up. And people were like, is he going to do that? I mean, come on. So there's a lot of different stories within this singular fight. I mean, one is Ankaleav looked great. He stood up. He wasn't scared of Pereira. And then he didn't really wrestle. I mean, he didn't really wrestle as much as you thought he was going to wrestle. He really stood up with him. He showed that he could strike with him. And I think Pereira wins round 1, but barely. Just he does a little bit more. And then the big round is round 2, man. Ankaleav, and I kept saying, why does Pereira look? He looked tentative. And then I kept saying, what's going on with Pereira, man? He's got to be careful. He's letting Magomed get into this fight and be all comfortable and play it, fight in his way. And then boom, the punches happen. I kept saying that left looked like it was going to be open. He hits him with the left and it changes the whole fight. He almost knocks Pereira down in the end of the second round. He steals it. Pereira's really stunned. If it wasn't for the cage right there, he might have went down. And then I don't know if Pereira ever really recovered. In the third round, it looked like he did in the third round, but he just didn't do enough. And this is the round in a lot of people's mind. I know people are saying, oh, maybe Pereira won on points. But I think Ankaleav still did enough to take round 3. Pereira came back. He peppered him a little bit, but it just wasn't enough. He never really got into a Viper mode. He never went into an attack mode. And either he just was hurt from the punches, or he just had an off night, because he already looked a little off before the big punches happened. But what I'm confused by and perplexed, because I finally took Pereira in this fight, it's this irony that he doesn't come through. But to me, it looked like in rounds 3 and rounds 4, man, you got to go for broke. Like, you're probably down. You had got hit. Don't just try to win on points. You got to, he wasn't the Pereira of the second Jiri fight, of the Roundtree fight. He just couldn't, like, Ankaleav kept pressuring him. He got into his face. And then by round 4, very intelligently, like he did with Blachowicz, which pissed a lot of people off, he starts using his clinch. He starts grabbing Pereira, starts tiring him out, and he just steals the round. And that was basically, he stole the fight in round 4. Pereira may be, and on most of the judges' scorecards, he does enough to get round 5 back, but he wasn't like super attack mode. He did a little bit in the beginning of the first fight. And so I think this was a just decision. It was a unanimous decision for a new champion, Magomed Ankaleav. I know there's a little controversy here because people like love Pereira, and maybe they thought Ankaleav didn't do enough, but I thought he did enough to get 3 of the 5 rounds. Was it a super exciting ending? No. But I don't think every fight needs to be some crazy, barbaric, insane, Coliseum exciting fight. This guy just wanted to get the win, and if he has something in his toolbox that he can utilize that's going to get him the W, I don't blame Ankaleav, blame fucking Pereira. Finally, someone was smart enough to expose that Pereira is not a great grappler, even though I do got to give him props, man. The takedown defense was unbelievable. Ankaleav never really got a great takedown the entire time, but he was able to finally clinch him and control him. Pereira should have pushed off more. He should have got much more aggressive in the 3rd and the 4th and the 5th round. And he should have, like, kind of like when he started headhunting Jiri in that second fight, and also the comeback against Roundtree after he'd been knocked down. Then he really started going after it. But I think just Ankaleav was finally big enough. He had the major power in that left, and Pereira finally looked like he didn't look like the same guy. He was on his back foot. He looked tentative. And now it's like, so I think that was a just decision. I don't care what anybody else says. And I don't care if it was slightly boring. If he has a style that works, more power to him. Now, where do we go from this? One is, okay, first let's talk about Pereira. The whole talk about him going to heavyweight, I think that's done. There's no way, now that we've seen the blueprint to beat him, he can't go against John Jones or Aspinall. I mean, he could. Everybody has a puncher's chance. But now I don't think we want to see those fights. They were also talking about, oh my God, not only is he one of the greatest light heavyweights, he could be one of the greatest fighters ever. Now that, like, you could still make that case, but now I'm a little bit like, I know it's a very what have you done for me lately sport, but I'm a little bit less like, wow, okay, Pereira is one of the greatest ever. It's sort of, that kind of goes poof a little bit. He needs to come back and get another 1 or 2 monumental wins if he wants to go down in, like, now as the history books. Yes, he's one of the greatest light heavyweight champions, but to say you're one of the best ever, I don't know if you end on something like that. So I don't know what he does. I think, and the thing is, I don't think there should be an immediate rematch. If they had gone toe to toe, and it was one of the greatest light heavyweight fights we've ever seen, and Ankaleav then barely squeaks it out, kind of like in that Blachowicz draw, then sure, run it back. But it's going to be the same fight. I don't know if Pereira, I don't want to see that again. So what I want to see is Ankaleav fights Jiri. Pereira takes another fight in the meantime. Either he decides to go to heavyweight, which I don't know if I want to see anymore, or maybe he takes a little time off, right? And they see what happens with Jiri Ankaleav, and then maybe you give Pereira an immediate shot since he's beat Jiri twice, or you give him one other fight down against a Rocket or against anybody in that top realm there, while, Ankaleav fights Jiri. That's what I would prefer. I think the whole thing with Duplessis is a bit ridiculous. Does Pereira really want to cut all the way down to fucking 185 again? I don't think that'll be healthy. So it ends up leaving us with some confusion about the future, about Pereira. But I think, to me, the fight that you book is Ankaleav, Jiri Prochazka. That's the next fight. I don't want to hear this nonsense about an immediate rematch. because yes, he deserves it as far as what he's done and what he's just done over the past year or so, but not after that performance. We don't want to see it. The real fight fans don't want to see that fight. I want to show you this image here. A new king. This sums up the fight here. Yeah, I mean, he didn't fully dethrone him and really like take it from the champ, which we like to talk about, but man, he did enough. He was the one who had the big shots in that second round. That was the most definitive round. And if we're talking about the half point system ever, that's the best definitive round, and all the other rounds of these little cookie cutter, barely, scraping through rounds. I just think he did more. Did we want something more exciting? Sure. But it's not always that way, fight fans. All right. I told you we'd be bringing some shorter weekly episodes along with our standard Excuse the Savvy extended show that will be twice a month. So get ready for more hot MMA content all the damn time, baby. The resurgence of Savvy has been recognized across the globe, and we couldn't be more excited. And so with that, thank you for listening to the Wally Report, the world's hottest podcast. Please subscribe, follow, comment, like, share, and blast. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube. We're blasting hard on the talk. We're heavy on the gram. And now we're even getting crazy on the tube at The Wally Report. That's at The Wally Report. We've been posting amazing video clips from our episodes on our social channels. So please don't miss out. And please make sure to comment, argue with me if you hate my thoughts on this. Argue with me on Spotify, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube. We love the comments and interaction with the fans.